This video goes through the proofs of angle sum and different identities. Now, our QCAA subject matter does say to prove and apply these identities. So we will go through the proof. Now, to begin with, look at the rectangle PQSU with right-angled triangles PQR and PRT as shown. The length of PT is 1. Now, we're going to start by considering triangle PRT, which is this one here. And we're looking at cos of and sine of B. So we're going to label our triangle according to B. So opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So cos of B is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that becomes PR over PT. So that means PT is 1, so it's PR over 1. So PR is equal to cos of B. So I'm going to write that on my triangle. So PR is equal to cos of B. Now let's look at our sine ratio. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so that's RT over PT, which is RT over 1, which means that RT is sine of B. So my RT, I'm going to write on, is sine of B. Now let's consider triangle PQR. So that's this one down here. I'm going to look in relation to angle A. So that means opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So cos A is PQ over PR. So PR was equal to cos B, which I labeled on my triangle. So now I have that PQ is cos A times cos B. I'm going to write that on. Looking at my sine ratio, I've got RQ over PR. So that's RQ over cos B. So that means my RQ is sine A times cos B. So that's this. Now, finally, let's consider triangle RST. So that's this one up in this corner. Looking at angle A, so I'm going to label in a different color. So opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So my sine ratio is ST over RT. Now RT is equal to sine B. So that means my ST is sine A times sine B. So this is sine A times sine B. And then cos A is RS over RT, which is RS over sine B. So that means my RS is equal to cos A times sine B. Now you can see this diagram down the bottom that I've written all that information on from our previous rectangle. We're now going to consider triangle PTU. Which is this one here. Now, as UT is parallel to PQ, that means angle UTP. So angle UTP, which is this one here, is equal to angle TPQ. So that's all of this here. So that means that this is B and this is A, so that has to be A plus B. Okay, so now if we look in terms of this triangle, and you can see I've already labeled it, but we'll actually derive it. This is my opposite, this is my hypotenuse, and this is my adjacent. So cos of A plus B is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's UT over PT. PT is 1, so that means my ut is cos of a plus b, and I've written that on my triangle. Sine of a plus b is going to be pu over pt, which is pu over 1. So pu has to be sine of a plus b. And you can see I've written that on. So this is where our identities come from. This is a rectangle. Okay, so if you look, and I'm going to get rid of all my highlighting. So that means this side here has to equal that side there. So sine of a plus b has to be sine of a cos of b plus cos of a sine of b. We look at the other sides. Cos of a cos of b has to equal cos of a plus b plus sine of a sine of b. Rearrange to get cos of a plus b on its own out the front, and we get cos a cos b minus sine a sine b. Now look at for these formulas on your formula sheet. All right, now consider a plus negative b. So I'm just replacing my b with a negative using exactly what I've just got. So cos of negative b would still equal cos of b because we're in our first and fourth quadrants. So this is my b and this is my negative b. Sine of negative b would be negative sine of b. Again, because we're in our fourth quadrant. So now I can replace in our equation 1 up the top, I'm going to replace the b with negative b. So sine of a plus negative b is going to be sine of a cos of negative b plus cos of a sine of negative b. A plus negative b is a minus b. So now we're looking at sine of a minus b. And we just are going to replace cos of negative b with cos b and sine of negative b with minus sine b. And we get our next identity. Finally, let's do the same thing with our second one, cos of a plus b. Let's replace the b with a minus b. So we've got cos of a cos of negative b minus sine of a sine of negative b. And again, we're going to replace our cos of negative b with cos of b and our sine of negative b with negative sine of b. And then this becomes minus minus, which is a plus. And there's your other identity. So make sure you can locate those on your formula sheet.